¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
dry my eyes. You're right, I'm too emotional sometimes. Don't laugh, you know I can't keep it cool. No, not like you do. Lost inside our conversations wherever I go. Ooh. Yeah, I guess we all got our own ways to go. Yeah, and it's like nothing has changed. I tell you all about my days, even when there's nothing to say. I talk to you when I get caught up in the waves. I know you're not far away. It's like we're still face to face. I talk to you, you, you. I talk to you, you.
Welcome to the Tuesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Tuesday. Hope everyone had a awesome Labor Day weekend. Welcome, everybody. Derry Bennett. Yeah, I saw that the singer from Smash Mouth is has passed. I saw that. Nazis at Disney. Is that currently happening? Is that something that's currently happening right now? Mouselander, how's it going? Welcome. Steve Harwell was also a Nazi? What? That's disappointing. How's it going, bipedal meatbag? Liver disease is still a horrible way to die. True. He's done the Nazi salute at several concerts. Oh dear. Yikes. Yikes. I'm reading about their one of their last shows where he not only acted out of he acted out against several people, but apparently he did the Nazi salute that on that show as well. Apparently, also a big kind of anti-vaxxer too. Jeez. Smash Out's supposed to come at an Eclipse Festival thing where I'm at in October. Oh, wow. Jesus. How's it going, Echo Rest the Dragon? Yeah, I'm just like reading some of the stuff. I'm just reading some of the stuff that this guy's done. Jeez. Whoo boy. How's everybody doing today? I'm hanging in there. How's it going, Elio? Well, that's unfortunate to find out. Yep, I just saw a video of this guy do the Nazi salute. Alright, folks, we got a few things to go through. So we'll try to get through as much of the news as possible. Not much variety. Apparently today they're going to be sentencing the Proud Boy, the leader of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio. The prosecution is currently asking for 33 years. I think that's too little, but we'll see what the sentencing actually ends up being. As of right now, I don't think we know. I was waiting for that, but no updates on that other than they were going to sentence him today. Also, update another kind of slightly tangential story. Ken Paxton is having his impeachment trial in the Texas Senate. Yes, that's also happening. Whether or not they're going to impeach him completely is to be seen, but yeah, I think that's going on live right now. The same grand jury that indicted Trump apparently indicted a bunch of Stop Cop City protesters in Georgia. They indicted them on like RICO charges, which is kind of weird. I'll have to look into that case. But anybody that tries to say that the whole like Trump indictment is some kind of like ideological that this Trump indictment is ideologically motivated is incorrect. Is incorrect. All right, folks, we're going to get through some of these headlines as much as possible. And my chat just went away. Isn't he up to like 93 charges? Yeah, he's definitely over 90 charges. That much I do know. He's definitely over 90 charges. $91. Okay. Just one over 90 charges. Okay. Alright, let's watch a totally normal and hinged person.
You take everything we love, all our emotions, all our fantasies, all our escapism, and you just can't help shovel your dog f***ing crap ideology into everything! Every single solitary thing!
Yeah, very normal stuff going on here. 91, 90, I think more than one is a lot. Oh man, yeah, but the guy, I think he's toast, to be quite frank, but we'll see.
You just got a small taste of a viral rant from anti-SJW YouTuber Heel vs. Babyface. And for those not plugged into the discourse on this one, let me fill you in. So there's a new Bethesda game called Starfield, and in the beginning of the game, you can create and customize the character that you're going to be playing as. This is a pretty common feature in most role-playing games. Now, this grown man had an absolute meltdown, all because the game gave him the option to choose his pronouns. Yeah, that's what led to that rant. So now that you have some additional context here, let's go ahead and watch the full thing.
Okay. Let's see if he breaks 100. Doubt it. I don't know if he's gonna... Well, I mean, they could technically add more charges down the road. If he lies or whatever, technically. But who knows? I'm be honest, it's probably not gonna happen. But, yeah, he has enough problems. Like, even if, like, a couple of those felony charges land, and there is a hypothetical scenario where any of these felony charges land, he's going to supposedly be in prison, whatever that's going to look like. I guess we'll see when we get there. But, I mean, he's potentially looking at very easily the rest of his life in some form of prison, whether that be him not being able to leave wherever the secure location is, or whether he gets stripped of Secret Service and he goes to like prison. I mean, I don't know how that's gonna end up working out. But either way, in the event of a conviction of any combination of any of these things, hypothetically, he could be looking at whatever's left of his life in prison. I use that word lightly because I don't know what actually will happen in the event that he gets convicted. Like, I actually don't know how this is gonna play out. I mean, like, this is a scenario we've never quite had to deal with. So, I don't know. He keeps on threatening people's lives on social, so that could rack up more charges. I mean, like, witness intimidation, certainly. Witness tampering or witness intimidation, certainly. So I mean, he could find himself in more hot water on that. I mean, just like 8 minutes ago, he tweeted about some delusional rant about how evidence was destroyed. The January 6th committee, the January 6th committee of political hacks and thugs have been found to have deleted and destroyed all evidence and findings of the recently ended committee of Trump persecution and hatred. Is there any evidence of that? Is he literally just making stuff up? Because I have not heard this. And even if that's the case, all this evidence was already forwarded to the appropriate, like, department, right? They were, those that could have been potentially, criminal acts have already been forwarded to the Justice Department, which kicked off all this investigations. It's the reason why we're here. That's the whole reason why we're here. So even if that was the case, the Justice Department has that evidence. And if it's truly a committee of Trump persecution and hatred, wouldn't it be a good thing if the evidence is gone? Because isn't the whole point of according to him, of the January 6th committee to persecute him? And now that the evidence is gone, wouldn't that be a good thing for him? None of this makes any sense. This was 8 minutes ago, by the way. Like, is this making any sense? He's toast? Theoretically, he should be. Theoretically.
I just want to say something to you, Bethesda. Just want to say a little something. There is nothing I love more. Taking my headphones off. Fuck that. Bethesda, there is nothing I love more than to sit down, comfy chair, turn on my PC, fire up a brand new RPG, lose myself, think, oh my God, just think of this world. Just think of all the planets I can visit, all the immersive things that I can get involved with, all the fights, all the relationships, all the people I meet, all the places I go. I'm so excited to go there. And you know, I love nothing more than, with all of that laid out in front of me, I love nothing more than to be dragged out at every fucking conceivable opportunity so you can fucking current day us.
What? Totally normal and totally hinged response. He means that the evidence. He means the evidence that he is a saint has disappeared. Oh, gotcha. The exculpatory evidence. Gotcha. You know, someone is either whispering in Trump's ear or watching too much TV. I mean, hey, did he ever end up doing that press conference that supposedly he was going to reveal? That he was supposedly going to reveal the evidence that would, that would prove him innocent. Didn't he say that he was going to make an entire press conference and then, like, it didn't happen because probably some actual lawyers were like, listen, bro, you can't do this, okay? You're hurting your case. Like, oh, wait, actually, that just reminded me, like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. If the January 6th committee deleted all the evidence, presumably, like you said, presumably the exculpatory evidence, didn't he say that he was going to do an entire press conference regarding, like, the exculpatory evidence? So it didn't disappear, did it? Supposedly, if he has it, right? None of this makes sense, folks, okay? No press conference? Gotcha.
Sorry, did you want to get immersed in our world? Yeah, well, guess what? Fucking pronouns! Fucking gender ambiguity! Fucking current day Californian shit! Because that's all we fucking know! Because we're boring! We're so fucking boring!
Oh man, wait till this guy finds out the 90s like version of Pokemon gave you the option of like choosing, not the 90s, well, it could be the 90s. Maybe when did was it Crystal version that allowed you to choose? When did Pokemon Crystal come out? Like literally right at the 2000s. Oh, 2001. Okay. Gatoranja, is he on stimulants? I have no idea. He's on anti-wokeness. That's what he is. That's what he's on. So, like, wait till he finds out that in 2001, Pokemon released their first version of Pokemon that actually let you choose, your gender. The year is now 2023. It's been it's been decades already where games, like, let you do this, and, like, I guess this is what he decides that he's going to blow his blood pressure over, I guess.
We can't see past our own fucking reflection. That's the level of our narcissism here at Bethesda Western Game Company. Fuck your immersion. Fuck you having a good time. Fuck you falling into a world and just getting lost. No, no, no. Current fucking day. Fuck off. You're boring. You're fucking dull. You have nothing to say!
This is embarrassing? It is. It should be. It should be. But it's not to these people. It's not. No shame whatsoever. Like, to him, this is like a righteous, call to arms or something. I don't know. Did he get his refund on Steam? I have no idea. Like, I have no idea. Can you even get a refund on Steam? Either way, like, the dude's literally blowing a gasket over something that has existed for decades at this point. Under 2 hours of play you can? Gotcha. He won't get a refund after this rant. I don't even know who this guy is, but he seems pretty miserable.
You are a one-hived mind twat waffle! That's all you fucking are! And you wonder why people are getting so fucking sick and tired You take everything we love, all our emotions, all our fantasies, all our escapism, and you just can't help shovel your dog shit, fucking crap ideology into everything, every single solitary fucking thing.
Having a normal one, I see.
Yeah, this is pretty freaking sad. This is pretty freaking sad and pathetic. And like these people are, this guy is very serious about it. Like he means this shit.
Now, he seemingly chose to keep playing after the pronoun controversy, and he ended up encountering a trans NPC, which stands for non-playable character, in the wild, and his reaction to that was predictably
Oh god. I'm late to the party. No, you're just in time, okay? How's it going, Sharpie Diesel? He's gonna give himself an aneurysm. Nah, that's on him. Like, if that's your reaction to, like, I don't know, a fucking video game, like, whatever, dude. It's a fantasy to not choose your pronouns, apparently. Apparently. Like, we've only been customizing, like, RPG characters down to the T, since the beginning of RPG time, right? Like, where you can literally customize, like, gender, you can customize hair, eyes, like, everything. Everything. You can customize your name in some cases. I mean, like, but yeah, I guess the line is pronouns when you choose your pronouns if you want to, by the way. I don't think you have to. If I saw the screenshot correctly, it's an option. Let's see if we can go back to it. Yeah, I guess. I actually don't know if you can bypass that.
encountering a trans NPC, which stands for non-playable character, in the wild, and his reaction to that was predictably hilarious.
Fuck off. Fuck off. It's infected everywhere.
Nerves.
After the pronoun controversy, and he ended up encountering a trans NPC, which stands for non-playable character, in the wild.
What did I blunder into? Somebody like having a aneurysm over apparently pronouns and like a trans NPC character in a video game. Why doesn't he just choose? I don't get it. I don't know. Or like, do you even have to choose? It wasn't really like specific in the screenshot, but like, did you even have to choose? I don't know. Khajiit better be binary gender.
Wild, and his reaction to that was predictably hilarious.
Fuck off. Fuck off. It's infected everywhere.
Nerves kicking in.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
I double checked, and therapy is free on Turf Island, right? So I would highly encourage this individual to take advantage of his country's universal healthcare system. We don't have that luxury in the United States, so he should unironically get some help. And I mean that earnestly, like actually seek therapy if you are this triggered by a trans person, because it's not healthy, nor is it normal.
We all love to play.
True. Also, like, I was just looking at when Fallout 4 was released. Fallout 4 was released in 2015. That's almost like 10 years ago. And even in this game, even in this RPG, you can you can marry somebody from the same sex. And like nobody batted an eye. Nobody said like this was some type of like woke agenda infiltration nonsense. Like it wasn't a thing. This wasn't a conversation that was being had back then. Remember Khajiit's from Oblivion? Yeah. So he has been mad for 8 years? No, I'm just saying, like, I was just looking up the the release date for Fallout, and I know Fallout because I have the game. You can marry somebody from the same sex. You can have a same-sex partner, and there was literally no this wasn't like a I don't remember that being a controversy. Like, nobody gave a single solitary crap. In fact, I didn't even hear about like any I mean, then again, it was almost 10 years ago. But I don't remember that being discourse. I don't remember people literally having an aneurysm over discovering discovering that there are gay people in the you have the potential of having a gay character in the video game. I don't know. It just seems so silly and so sad and so pathetic that this is the way that these people decide to react. I usually choose small body female avatar simply because of reduced hitbox for incoming damage. Nice. There you go.
But to be fair, gaming is not immune to controversies over cultural
Hey.
issues. Nearly 15 years ago, Rockstar released Grand Theft Auto: The Ballad of Gay Tony, and I personally remembered the discourse at this time. In a 2009 post in the GTA forums, this user pointed out that the blatant homophobia was one of the first things that they noticed in response to the game's announcement, saying that it was sad people were willing to reject the game all because it had gay in the title and featured a gay character. Now, in 2012, BioWare didn't just give players the option to be gay or lesbian in Mass Effect 3. They actually included a gay sex scene, which was very controversial at the time. I know because I remember. And this came after they actually removed a gay sex scene from Mass Effect 2 following criticism from Fox News. But the controversy goes both ways because
wait, like didn't like the Mass Effect series end up being like one of the most like successful like video game series ever? Like, I don't know, man. You can choose your gender or say don't want to in every registration or game I've ever done. Doesn't have a Google or a Twitch account. You must have made a YouTube video. Makes you choose to. Yeah, right. But see, you see, the YouTube channel is for clout. The YouTube channel is his soapbox. So he's not gonna talk about that, or he's not gonna mention that part, right? The YouTube like channel or YouTube portal that allows you to choose your gender or pronouns if you want, because it's true. It's true. He's not going to talk about that. No, that's his soapbox. I always pick a female avatar because I don't want to look at man's ass all day. That's kind of a weird. That's kind of strange that that's what you would fixate on. Are you good? That's kind of weird. Because like if you're a male character, what or a female, like is that all you look at? I don't understand. Because like I've played RPGs, I've played both male and female characters, and I promise you the last thing that's going through my mind is ass.
Earlier this year, when Hogwarts Legacy came out, there was a lot of discourse about whether or not it was ethical to play that game, because if you purchase that game, are you supporting a transphobic bigot like J.K. Rowling? Now, the Ant-Man decided to see what this guy said about that controversy and juxtapose what he said then with what he's saying now about Starfield, and as you're going to see, there's some hypocrisy there.
I will not be berated, bullied, intimidated into not playing a game because you think it attacks you or goes against your ideology. Boo fucking who? Man up! Fucking pronouns! Boo fucking who? Man up! Fucking gender ambiguity!
I, for one, am shocked that he'd be completely inconsistent here. But to be fair, he isn't.
Right, like I said, the dude's just attention starved, maybe, who knows. It should be just religious rage monsters on the radio. What happened for this guy is he learned how to use technology before self-development and maturity caught up with his technical knowledge. True, I choose a male so no one comments on my boobs all game. Again, that's kind of weird that people's like automatic responses are okay, whatever.
isn't the only snowflake to melt down over pronouns in Starfield, because Rumble content creator Nina Infinity tweeted about how she nearly refunded the game when it asked for her pronouns, and she was still considering it given how annoyed she was that they dared to.
Yeah, and like these people aren't gonna get a refund. These people are gonna pay. Like even even if they claim that I'm gonna get a refund. No, you're not. No, you're not. If the game is good, if the storyline is immersive, you're not. Like, stop. Stop. This is just virtue signaling. Stop.
Ask. And on top of that, the Quartering chimed in to defend his fellow anti-SJW comrades, saying the left always tries to gaslight people into thinking they are overreacting. It isn't just the pronouns, it's the slippery slope it represents.
What slippery slope, bro? What slippery slope do pronouns in a video game that you can, by the way, opt not to play altogether? Okay? You can just not play the game. You can just not play the game altogether. And what exactly? What slippery slope exactly? Because like again, this has been part of like video games for like forever. Okay?
Cultists screaming it's no big deal also think it's no big deal. Healthy young women mutilate their bodies for affirmation. Another transphobe supposedly concerned about mutilation. I wonder if he's ever questioned the ethics around circumcision or the literal genital mutilation of intersex babies. Something tells me that he only talks about trans people and specifically wants to police their bodily autonomy. But to be fair, when he says that this represents a slippery slope, he's right. Representation leads to normalization, and that's a good thing. Trans people exist, and they also play video games. So why shouldn't they have the option to create a character that they want? I mean, in a lot of video games, you can create any character.
Yeah, you can already do that. Anyways, Disney asked for gender identity now too, and gives the option to not say. Right, I believe it's the same thing. Like you don't have to select. You don't have to select the pronouns if you don't want to. It's just there for the people that want to have that option. You don't have to use that. You don't have to play the game. Slippery slope arguments are usually considered fallacious. True. Waxing philosophical, welcome.
When my husband was playing Baldur's Gate 3, he played as some green fucking alien thing. Why can't we be what we want in a game that is about role-playing and simulation and realism? Why not give them this option? Well, it's purely because of bigotry. Now, Heels versus Babyface actually responded to the virality of that rant, and he basically talked about his quote-unquote cancellation, which you're not being canceled, but he claims...
Okay, what? Quote-unquote cancellation. Listen, bro, being made fun of and being dunked on the internet is not cancellation, my dude.
that actually, he's not mad. You're all mad.
Man has opinion about video game. Internet goes absolutely nuclear crazy about opinion on video game. Is this actually about opinion on video game? No, this has nothing to do with opinion on video game. This has everything to do with going after the far left sacred cow of gender ideology.
My brother in Christ. Nope.
Oh man, normal stuff going on. Normal stuff going on here. I have no pronouns on Twitter and Twitch, Discord, so what? That's a choice too. Exactly. I don't think I have that on my Twitter. I don't think I have that on my Twitter. Like, it's a choice, or like if people ask, I'll tell you. Okay? Or if people like want to be referred to as certain pronouns, that's all you have to do. Like it's not that complicated. It really isn't. It's not that complicated to be a respectable human being and just, I don't know, leave people the fuck alone and leave people's bodily autonomy alone. I don't know. It just seems so easy.
Nobody is mad or going nuclear crazy over your video game opinion or response to fucking gender ideology. We're laughing at you because you acted like a fucking petulant child. I mean, imagine if the shoe...
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Like, cancellation, like, these people, like, words have no meaning to these people. Woke, cancellation, like, these words have absolutely no meaning to these people. Being dunked on the internet for being exactly that, a petulant child, for a, again, video game, is not cancellation. Okay, being repeatedly dunked on, and rightfully so, is not cancellation. Screaming at the top of his lungs on multiple social platforms and the content not being pulled is not being canceled. Exactly. If someone tells you that something does them harm and you continue to do the thing knowing that it does harm, you're an ass, and there's really not much more nuance to it. Yeah, I mean, like, it's really that simple. You're right. It's actually the easier choice to just be respectful. Yeah, I mean, like, just be a decent human being. I don't understand. It's not that hard. It's really not. But okay.
Two were on the other foot, and a gay gamer freaked out at the sight of heterosexuality being depicted. Wouldn't you laugh at them and think that that's a little bit ridiculous? I'd find that funny because straight people exist. Therefore, I think it's perfectly fine if they are depicted in video games. But I mean, to protect his bruised ego, he decided to pretend like he's speaking some sort of a forbidden truth, when in reality, he's just a reactionary snowflake who got triggered and melted down, and he can't accept that everyone on the internet is laughing at him. So he's got to make it about, oh, well, this is about gender ideology, and I guess I hit a nerve. No, brother, we're just laughing at you. That's it. It's not that.
Yeah. I do miss the days where this content was only available at Speaker's Corner. I have no idea what that is, and something tells me it's probably a good thing.
That complicated. You don't have to overthink it. But another big streamer went viral as well for the same reason. Dr. Disrespect actually speculated that Bethesda didn't send him a copy of the game because of his recent transphobic comments. And he came to this conclusion after investigating and finding out that Bethesda's senior VP of Public Relations, Pete Hines, actually has, wait for it, pronouns in the bio.
I got it. So, I gotta say this, Chance, just real quick. I just gotta get it off my chest.
Wait.
Game because of his recent transphobic comments. And he came to this conclusion after investigating and finding out that Bethesda's senior VP of Public Relations, Pete Hines, actually has, wait for it, pronouns in the bio.
Oh, shit. Master fucking detective over here. If these peeps want to be a unicorn, have at it. I'm a chick and constantly get called a dude. Not a dude, just a dude, like a friend type of person. Doesn't bother me at all. I don't freak out and scream at them how I call some of my best girlfriends dudes do. Like, hey, what's up, dude? Yeah, like, I think that, like, it's just, all it is just virtue signaling. That's it. It's just it. They're just trying to, this guy screamed for however many minutes about pronouns in a video game, and a trans NPC character on a video game for virtue signaling purposes. That's it. That's the only reason this happened. And you know that this is the reason because, again, you can literally choose pronouns in your YouTube channel. In your YouTube channel thing. Okay, you can choose that. Do you hear this guy screeching about YouTube pronouns? No. Oh, I see. They don't have anything better to do? Nope. Even negative engagement is money too. Yep. I see. Like an actual Speaker's Corner. I thought it was a website, to be honest. This trans thing is getting out of hand, but that's just my opinion. Whether it's popular or not, who gives a crap? It's a freaking avatar. Yeah, exactly. Like, these people obsessed, like, for a supposed, like, movement or ideology that, like, claims that, like, I don't know, that there's people, like, that there's so much obsession over trans issues. It's them who are overly obsessive. Like, they can't talk about anything else. They are constantly obsessing about trans issues when they could just, I don't know, leave trans people alone. That's just my 2 cents.
Got it. I got it. So, I gotta say this, Chance, for just real quick. I just gotta get it off my chest. Obviously, we've been hyping up Star Citizen for Starfield for a long time. We've been making it very vocal, right, Chance?
Yeah, exactly. Entitled pricks. We'll use that. In the 90s, it took form of a video recording kiosk in major cities where you could record 60-second rants and it would be sometimes get televised. Oh boy, really? Wow.
We had our team reach out. Hey, can we work with you? Can we do something? Due to past controversies, there's no way we can work with Dr. Disrespect. How about just give me, like, let me play the game when some of the others are playing it. How about that? Yeah, that's still the case.
Yeah, that sounds like cope to me. But he responded to that video going viral, claiming that he was taken out of context, and added, politics should stay out of the video game industry entirely, along with people like this. Now, that's such a stupid point to make because everything is inherently political. You can't detach politics from anything. I mean, art imitates life, and life is inherently political. If you don't care about politics, it still affects you. But to the extent that...
Also, like, I mean... Yeah, to an extent that's true. But like what does pronouns have to do? Anyways, I don't get it.
Something should not be political. It's the mere inclusion of trans people. Why do you view their inclusion as a political point? They exist. They're not political points or political pawns. They exist in reality, right?
Right. That's exactly it.
They're your friends, your family. They work at grocery stores, fast food restaurants. Perhaps you run into them and don't even realize it. Why do you think that them being included is inherently political? Is it political to include black people or Asian people or gay people? I mean, it's just, they're so petulant and so entitled that they think that the world revolves around them, and anything that deviates from the norm, well, that's just inherently political. I mean, is it political that when you go to these character creation screens, it always defaults to a white guy? I mean, a black person can claim that that's political. Women can claim that that's political. But you don't see them bitching, right? But Keffels pointed out his hypocrisy in response, writing, "You literally became popular by streaming a game that the U.S. Army uses as a recruitment tool. Grow the fuck up, dude." And Hutch chimed in.
Oh, true. Oh, true. I didn't catch that. That's true. Call of Duty. That's true.
In saying, if pronouns are political, I've got some bad news for you. And he pointed out that doctor is sometimes used as a pronoun. Yeah. And what these transphobic dipshits fail to realize is that cis people also have pronouns. It's not just trans people that have pronouns. Cis people have them too, and we've been using them our entire lives. See, when they say things like, I refuse to use pronouns, they're not actually smart enough to realize that they're using a pronoun to make that statement. But here's the thing, reactionary gamers, they will continue to bitch and moan about the inclusion of trans people in video games in the same way that they've continued to bitch and moan about the inclusion of gay people in video games. And even though homosexuality in video games is still controversial, reactionaries don't cry about it as much because they've come to begrudgingly accept that society has moved on without them. And them crying is not going to get developers to remove gay characters from video games. And the same will be true for trans inclusion as well eventually. But that doesn't mean that Bethesda is trying to shove some sort of an agenda agenda down your throat. That's stupid to think something like that, right?
Yeah, like the only agenda that Bethesda has is how much money they can make to their shareholders, and what are the ways to make that happen. That is the only thought process that's happening at like any of these companies, like board meetings or whatever. Their thought process isn't to like, what agenda are we gonna shove down Baldy's throat this time, right? Like, no. They're trying to figure out how much video games they can sell to the biggest pool of customers as possible to make the most amount of money. That is the only question. That is the only question that's being contemplated there. These pronouns are getting very long. Well, LGBTQIA+ aren't pronouns. That seems kind of ridiculous, right? You know that, right? They're just a shorthand for different types of sexuality. You can just say LGBT+. If it's too bothersome for you, if it's too cumbersome for you to remember, you can just use LGBTQ+, which includes any other type of sexuality that might arise. They don't hate pronouns, they hate capitalism. Right, but they can't say that. They can't say that. The only agenda is how they can corner the attention market and monetize it. Yep, that's it. That's the only conversation that is being entertained in those meetings. It's not to shove down some agenda, some gender ideology agenda down these like gamers' throats. No. That's not what's happening here.
These companies don't actually have agendas. More options simply broaden the appeal and enhance realism. But at the end of the day, simple descriptive representation isn't going to make or break these games, right? Nobody's buying the game for that. The game is going to be bought if it's good, right? So if Starfield is good, even the most reactionary player isn't going to want to miss out on that experience. Unfortunately for this game, it seems as if the reviews are relatively mixed. I mean, they're positive, but I've heard mixed things. But I mean, when it comes to Bethesda, their inclusion of pronouns doesn't erase their horrific mistreatment of their own employees, specifically one of their trans employees, because as the Mary Sue reports, Farron, a transgender woman, is suing ZeniMax, which is Bethesda's parent company, by the way, for their failure to provide continuation coverage for her healthcare. In the suit, Farron asserts that she signed a severance agreement with ZeniMax, which stipulated that they'd provide her COBRA coverage 18 months of healthcare coverage after leaving the job, on the condition that she not file a discrimination lawsuit. This was allegedly after a year of transphobic aggression in her workplace after she came out, which the company seems to admit if they've asked her to not file a discrimination suit. Oh, and she says she was pressured to come out because her supervisor outed her on Slack during a meeting before she could talk to the team herself. Farron documented all of this through screenshots, recorded phone calls, and more. And long story short, after agreeing to not sue them for discrimination so long as they continued to give her healthcare, they didn't hold up their end of the bargain, and they left her with thousands and thousands of dollars in medical bills. So they didn't uphold their end of the bargain, hence why she's suing. Now, I'll link you to her 4-hour-long video where she goes over how the company fucked her over.
Right, so again, like, to these people who think that, like, these clowns who think that Bethesda or any of these video game companies are, like, shoving down an agenda, like, no. No. 4 hours? Yeah, I mean, if you had to go through a whole bunch of receipts as to how bad your company treated you, however long it takes, right? 2 hours, 4 hours, right? The problem is the company screwed her over, right? That's the issue, right? The company screwed her over.
painstaking detail. There's also a link to a Stephanie Sterling video that I will include that goes over it in a more concise manner. But I mean, this is the reality right here of large multinational corporations. The same woke corporations supposedly shoving an agenda down your throats are the same companies who allegedly mistreat and abuse their trans employees. So if these reactionaries feel victimized by Bethesda's mere inclusion of pronouns, imagine how it feels to be Farron. I mean, this fuckface couldn't walk a day in the shoes of any trans person if pronouns trigger him that much, right? But this is what entitlement leads to, right? It makes you think that you are the center of the world, you're the main character, and anything that deviates from the norm or what makes you feel uncomfortable is automatically illegitimate. But this highlights the reality of late-stage capitalism. There are no woke corporations, contrary to popular belief. These corporations don't actually have any agenda, right? And to the extent that they do care about politics, it's about making sure that their taxes are cut and they could treat workers as shitty as possible and break up their unions. That's basically their entire political belief system. That's all they care about. Their one goal is to maximize profits, not push social justice causes or increase representation for some political cause, right?
Unless it makes more money. I mean, the agenda of wanting. Do you mean the agenda of wanting to be treated like regular people? Guilty. True.
That's all they care about. It's just money. Period. Don't overthink it. That's their one drive, making as much money as possible. So even if these reactionaries refuse to see it, they have more in common with trans people than they think. But rich capitalists have convinced them that trans people are the real enemies and not the rich people who are exploiting them. And there's a reason for that. They're just too dumb to see it.
True. All right. Nice meme.
Taylor Greene is painting herself as the victim after she threatened to shut down the federal government if she doesn't get her way in the House of Representatives, which her way, of course, is getting an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Marjorie Taylor Greene made it clear recently that if she does not get to launch that impeachment inquiry, then she is going to set the entire government essentially on fire, shut it down, furlough countless federal workers, stop federal programs from functioning, and cost the economy millions of dollars a day. She alone is...
Like, by the way, to my knowledge or to my understanding, the reason why this the reason why this impeachment inquiry is even being considered is because allegedly they are trying to link the Hunter Biden stuff. They're trying to tie like the Hunter Biden stuff with Joe Biden, and they have yet to provide concrete evidence of any of their claims. So much so that even Republicans have already admitted we've got nothing so far. And now she's trying to threaten to hold up the government funding over an impeachment inquiry when even Republicans are a little bit skeptical of pursuing because of the lack of evidence. Yeah. I think there must be psychotics in the water. Nope, it's just Marjorie Taylor Greene. Another day when Marjorie Taylor Greene's staffer was late changing her diaper, we all got to suffer as a result. The other day I make my employer a boatload of money, which pays my mortgage and allows me to upkeep my house. I will treat anyone that is respectful to me with more respect. If they're hateful, they can pee up a rope. If they're hateful, they can pee up a rope, but I will not be mean. I'll just say have a good day. I guess.
Is willing to do that if she doesn't get to do everything she wants to do. One idiot representative from a tiny ass district in Georgia
By the way, like that's how thin the margins are in the Republican controlled House, that like one or two members threatening to like defect can like potentially derail the entire thing here. She's getting a divorce and she's making it the entire country's problem. True.
Is threatening to ruin the government for everybody if she doesn't get to investigate Biden, which the House of Representatives has been doing all frickin' year. Here is what Green said.
Yeah, again, they've been doing this for what, 9 months at this point? We'll just say almost 9 months, around 9 months at this point. And they have found nothing. They haven't found enough evidence to even continue pursuing this, in my opinion.
Recently, the White House is attacking me for demanding an impeachment inquiry before I'll vote to fund 1 penny to our overbloated $32 trillion in-debt failing government. We have the evidence they have desperately been trying to hide to just ask the question, should we inquire? Should we just take a look? Dare we investigate further? The answer is yes, but the White House is outraged at my audacity to demand it.
Wait, what? How? What? This is done by the House. What are you talking about? And if you had the evidence, then why are we even having this conversation? Show the evidence, dude. It's that simple. Looks like Mars learned a valuable lesson from Senator Tommy.
So once again, she's making herself the victim. Like, you are threatening hundreds of thousands of workers in the economy. You are threatening the very economy itself. You are pushing an investigation that even your own party at this point is starting to say, this is a real stupid idea.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, she's continuing to act this way, and I guess she's like fabricating this stuff like from the ether itself, because none of this is like based on reality. That even her own party is like, yo, we don't have the receipts. This has been going on for a while now. I believe months ago, the House Republicans came out and said, we don't have like the evidence to link the Hunter Biden stuff with Joe Biden. Hunter Biden has his own legal problems. Excuse me, Hunter Biden has his own legal problems. But nothing to do, as of yet, unless evidence actually gets put on the table, nothing to do with Joe Biden. And they've been trying to make this link for months now. It just hasn't materialized. This is why I like to chat. I actually can't stand the Bidens, but I'm so thankful for all y'all not running me out of the chat. I got so much to learn that I could get I get to learn so much more than I could get from some other places. Well, I appreciate that. This isn't even actually about the Bidens. I'm going to be honest. This story isn't even about the Bidens. This is just about like the delusions of this Republican representative, who, by the way, is considered a rock star of the Republican Party. I mean, lying, confabulations, delusions. Who knows why? Why don't they shut her up? She's really bad for the party in the long run. I don't know. Maybe because they're, they just don't want to or refuse to. It doesn't matter to me. It's the fact of the matter is that she is a rock star in the Republican Party, and they seem to not really want to do anything about her. So whether it is because they're scared of her for some reason, maybe they think that she has, a pulse on the base, on the Trump, particularly on the Trump base. So maybe they think that she holds a bit of that sway. or maybe they just haven't found, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. They're not doing anything about it. So to me, that's just endorsement. It's the same thing. Hey, Heat, how's it going? Marjorie Taylor Greene is their best fundraiser. Yeah, she's a rock star. She's a rock star for the Republican Party. So again, it doesn't matter if they believe if they believe that she has a pulse on the base, whether they believe what she says or not, or endorse what she says or not, it doesn't really matter to me. Hey, the Simulacra fundraising is overrated based on one quarter a couple years ago. Oh, I might be wrong then. I might be wrong.
And you're the victim, right? Because you're the one not getting your way. Now, I do want everybody to think for just a second about how stupid this scenario is, because this may be one of the dumbest things I've ever had to talk about. Again, Marjorie Taylor Greene is from a tiny district in Georgia, okay? She's not one of the hugely populous areas.
They've convinced me I won't vote for Hunter Biden in 2024. Thank goodness. Until they turn on her and dump her ass. Maybe. Or maybe they just think that she's useful, or maybe they're afraid because she has a post on the Trump base. I don't know. Whatever it is. Again, to me, in my opinion, it doesn't matter. Because the result is the same, right?
She's this podunk, no offense to the people there, but, a smaller little district. She's one out of 435 members of the House of Representatives. And that one person, representing a couple 10,000s of people, can shut the entire government down just because she doesn't get her way.
Right, so, yeah. Breaking Proud Boy got 22 years. Oh, they finally released it? Wow. Should have been 33. It should have been 33.
Like, this is worse than I'm going to take my ball and go home. I'm going to take my ball and shut down the government. Now, in case y'all haven't been following along with what's been happening, of course, a couple months ago, we had the debt ceiling negotiations. We got some spending bills to keep the government going for a few months. But we have multiple, I think there's like 14 appropriations bills that have to be passed by September 30th. And if those bills are not passed by September 30th, the government goes into shutdown mode. So we only have a few weeks. And you've got these far-right extremists led by Marjorie Taylor Greene telling us that we're not going to vote for these funding bills if we're not allowed to impeach President Biden. If we cannot politicize the justice system in the United States. The same thing we...
Wow, phenomenal analysis, I Shoot Lightning. Phenomenal analysis. I lost brain cells. Streamer is a brilliant example of turning JFK's famous mantras, ask not what you can do for your country, but what your country can do for you. Peter Pan syndrome. Hey, Jagoff, government isn't supposed to pamper you. Glad I can help. Help with what? You're actually not helping with anything. I don't think I've ever said that the government needs to pamper you. I think the government should do like the bare minimum of making sure people have food, housing, education, and healthcare. But like basic necessities aren't pampering? ? Like, I'm astonished that this is the phenomenal analysis that you brought watching 5 minutes into this stream. Phenomenal stuff. Wow. Riveting. A lot of Republican voters are getting sick of their representatives. The problem is when asked why they voted for them, a large section of them just say, at least they're not Democrats. Right, this is some poor critical thinking, right? Because like this is poor critical thinking because like if you're so fed up with your with your Republican representative and the only answer you can give is at least they're not Democrats, that's not really an argument. That's not really an argument without at least explaining why. But isn't that the exact same thing with Democrats saying? Maybe a lot of them, maybe a lot of them, but like it's not so much about saying like, oh, it's just not well, they're just not Republicans. No, there's a distinctive there's a distinctive difference, I think, when saying like, well, I believe the Republican Party is incredibly dangerous because of their anti-democratic tendencies. Literally are currently under investigation. They're going to trial for trying to mess with the elections. So the only choice here is to vote against them. I'm not just saying I'm voting for a Democrat because they're not Republican, right? Like, there's reasons behind that. Given the fact that you only basically have effectively two choices. Does that make sense? Without being able to articulate those reasons, it just kind of seems half-assed. Like, oh, well, they're not Democrats. Okay. Well, have you tried to like analyze what's the situation here? That's the difference when I say the reasons why I'm voting the way I do. It's not, hey, I'm playing team sports and they're not the other guy. All the things they claim the Dems are going to do to them are actually things the GOP is going to do to them if they vote them in. True. We have Republicans in Democratic clothing. True. That's happened too.
We've accused Democrats of doing, but we're going to do it instead. If we cannot do those things, then everybody in this country has to suffer at the hands of a couple of far-right lawmakers who are representing...
The sad part is a lot of Dems in these districts would be more palatable to them. Right, which is my point. To circle back, it's like, did you not have any type of like critical thinking and like evaluate instead of just saying, well, they're not just Democrats? Okay, well, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? They're just not, oh, so you're just voting based on team sports? Like, come on, at least have some logic and some reasoning and some thought process behind it. We love the trolls, we love them trolls. Sometimes, if they're entertaining enough, but this one's just a clown. Like, this one's just a clown. This is not even, like, entertainment. Like, there's not even, like, a conversation to be had here. Because, like, there's nothing here. Or, like, you could get a job, which, I obviously have a job. That's why I stream at 5 p.m. That's why I stream at 5 p.m. Because, you know, I have a job. And I don't understand what the point is. If actually, in fact, this comment that this clown in chat left actually makes my point. They often provide benefits such as health insurance, even dental insurance. I have both through my job. That's actually exactly part of the problem, right? My health insurance and my dental insurance shouldn't be tied to my job. My health insurance and my dental insurance, which is all health insurance to begin with, so I don't even know why we're even parsing these two things out. Dental insurance is health insurance. Taking care of your teeth is health insurance. But all that is tied to my job. That shouldn't be, because if you lose your job, then you're SOL. And that could be for anything. That could be because they decided that they're going to let people go. The business could disappear tomorrow. And now you're left with no health insurance. That's actually making my point. But yeah, there's nothing really to respond to that. There's nothing to respond to this. It's empty. It's empty. So yeah, it is what it is.
Districts that are so grotesquely overwhelming Republican that they don't even come close to representing the will of the American people as a whole. That is how stupid this situation is. But that's how the government is set up. That's what Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to do. And until she gets her way, she is going to continue to pretend that she is the victim here, instead of the hundreds of thousands of workers whose livelihoods she's threatening. Hey everyone, this is Aspen. And did you know that for the low cost of $0,
If us as people step back and think about what we all need to do move forward instead of thinking about Democrats or Republicans, I'm often find myself on both sides of the spectrum. The thing is, like, there's a lot of things that aren't both sides. There's a lot of things that aren't just like both sides. Like an example would be the climate crisis. There isn't both sides to that. Anyways, yes, health insurance. Hey, Michael Hassler, health insurance should not be tied to a job. Exactly. I mean, generally trends are alarmingly close to each other, which is really what negative partisanship is all about. People don't just disagree anymore. They consider the opposition as danger to fundamentals of the nation. There's definitely more overlap of voters and their care admit. The problem is convincing them of it. People are sorting themselves in completely different realities, which is fine on paper, but long-term could cause serious tension. Yeah, but like, I would argue the difference, the difference is that, like, one is set on reality. Like, when I talk about like an actual danger is like a party organizing to overturn the election results. That's something that they're currently actually being charged with. That's currently actually happening. The front runner of the Republican Party is currently facing trial for the very thing. And I think that is actually dangerous to have this person anywhere near power. So I don't just say they're just a danger and like that's it. There's no like reasoning behind it. I'm saying that the other side is not living in reality. Their perception of danger is unfounded. It's made up. It's made up. There's no other way of putting it. I think that it's difficult because half of the people are living in a completely alternative reality. Hey, Cosmic Seeking, how's it going? They basically want to unalive my daughter for being queer, so it's not that difficult for me to decide. Yeah, I'm saying like there's things that aren't two sides. There are no both sides to things like human rights. There are no both sides to things like the right to bodily autonomy. That's my point. I live in Denmark, I get healthcare and can vote no matter what. On welfare in prison, even if I murder someone, no one should have the right taken away. No one should ever have the right to take your healthcare or your civil rights. True. Crap Grampy. Man, I just can't post. Maybe there are certain things that would prevent you from posting if you trigger the auto moderation, maybe? Right, made up reality. They live in a completely alternative reality where they think where they think that the Democrats are going to institute, I don't know, some woke socialist utopia. It's just like these are things that don't exist. The biggest thing about climate change is the fact that the Earth goes through stages and have been proven by science. Have we hindered it? I don't doubt that. But when if all climate people flying around private jets to make their chemical footprint smaller, it's just not okay. They were worried, so why can't they zoom? That's nothing to do with reality. Who are these climate people? You mean billionaires? Those aren't climate scientists. This makes no sense. The Earth has gone through stages that often take like hundreds of thousands of years. This has nothing to do with the impact that we as humans have palpably and observably done. Like, this is not up for debate. Like, this is actually not up for debate. It's a fact. It's a fact that's been proven with decades and decades of evidence as to how greenhouse gases, I mean, it's literally called the greenhouse effect, of how we've managed to exacerbate this problem. And it is us. We've done this. So I don't know who you're talking about, like flying in private jets. Do you mean like rich people? Are those climate scientists? Why would you listen to anybody that's not a climate scientist? This makes no sense. Like, who are you talking about? Who exactly are you talking about? Alright, so let's shift here. Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to have the Gazpacho shoot the Jewish space lasers again. John Kerry is one that comes to mind. Thank you for answering. Exactly why I love this channel. Yeah, well, John Kerry is not a climate scientist. And besides, he's a government official. Like, I don't understand. Granted, I wouldn't choose John Kerry as my climate envoy. But, like, he's a government official, right? Like, I don't understand. Like, why that would even be, like, a good argument to, like, follow through on that. The climate crisis is happening. The climate crisis is real. There is no two sides about that. It's real. And it's happening, and it's our fault, right? And by our fault, I mean human beings. Humans are causing this. So that this is not up for debate. John Kerry is not a climate scientist, so I don't really care what he says, to be quite frank. I think they mean Al Gore. Again, Al Gore is not really a climate scientist, is he? So even if they meant Al Gore as well, Al Gore is not a climate scientist. And he's a rich oligarch, or rich oligarch. Congress returns to try to prevent a government shutdown while the GOP weighs an impeachment inquiry. After months struggling to find an agreement just about anything in a divided Congress, lawmakers are returning to Capitol Hill to avert a government shutdown. Even as House Republicans consider whether to press forward with an impeachment inquiry into Biden. Well, at this point, they don't have much evidence, so on and so forth. He just flies around touting climate change and why we need to do less, but he keeps flying around the damn jet. I appreciate what your response was, and you are correct. Yeah, but I mean, like, the fact of the matter is, we do need to do something about the climate crisis, whether or not this one singular person, whether or not this one singular person is riding around in a jet. This like doesn't mean that the climate crisis isn't happening, right? No, but Al Gore represents the research as an advocate for action. He was an early voice on the topic, one of the first in political form. Yeah, but I feel like maybe I wish there was a better advocate, but it is what it is. Here's Bjorn Lomberg. He's just a right-wing nut. Yeah, Bjorn is not a climate scientist either. It's important to remember that they want to guilt us into fixing the problem on an individual level when in reality it needs to be solved on the corporate level with pressure from the masses. True. A short-term funding measure to keep government offices fully functioning will dominate the September agenda, along with emergency funding for Ukraine, federal disaster funds, and Republican-driven probe into Hunter Biden's overseas business dealings. Time is running short for Congress to act. The House is scheduled to meet for 11 days before the government's fiscal year ends on September 30th, leaving little room for maneuvering. And the deal-making will play out as two top Republicans, Senator McConnell and Scalise, are dealing with health issues. I think climate change is a really good example of negative partisan effect. To be honest, the Republicans already choose their position purely because it's the opposite of what Democrats want. Examples on these subjects of it going the other way. Nobody's choosing policy because it's coherent. They're doing it because they wanting to distinguish themselves from the quote other, which is completely messed up in all of the citizens to varying degrees. I mean, yeah, there's definitely some of that going on. Republicans will say that anything to do with climate change is just some woke green socialist agenda, Green New Deal agenda, and then that's it. That's the end of the story. And all their supporters and constituents will just clap, and that's it. I'll never say climate crisis is happening or we aren't to blame but for speeding up, but stop asking every single person on the planet to do these things while you're trying to while you fly a private jet and eat better than everyone else. Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it, be about it. Yeah, but like you're doing the thing that exactly the chatter above just said. You cannot solve this problem on an individual level. You cannot solve this problem on an individual level. It has to be systemic. Gore helped produce the film An Inconvenient Truth featuring many climate scientists. That's a fair point. Yes. That is true. Zelensky said that the U.S. funds will be repaid back. I guess. Although I don't believe Ukraine is in any position to... Ukraine won't be in any position to honor that for quite a while. McCarthy are focusing... the president and congressional leaders, including Republican House Speaker McCarthy, are focused on passage of month-long funding measure known as continuing resolution to keep the government office running while lawmakers iron out a budget. It's a step Congress routinely takes to avoid stoppages, but McCarthy faces resistance from his own Republican ranks, including some far-right conservatives who only embrace the idea of a government shutdown. Honestly, it's a pretty big mess. McConnell said it in a Kentucky event last week. So basically, yep, it's only going to take a couple of these far-right people to shut this down. They've taken on quite a bit of the IMF debt. Yep. Celebrities and politicians are not scientists, but they can draw spotlights to issues that society needs to address. True. Moderates in both parties will get chastised for being at least somewhat open to what the other side says when they think it merits attention, so you just have less and less deviation from dogmatism. You have less and less willing people to break the trend, and I'll admit I used to be one of those who did chastise them, and I think I was wrong to do that in hindsight. It depends on what they're being open about. Like, does that make sense? Like, if you're being like open to hearing the other side about like something that's completely delusional, then like no. I just don't think that you should be engaging in that, right? It goes back to the same argument of like, well, should we engage flat earthers? Like, are we going to get any meaningful conversation from a flat earther? Objectively, no. No. Like, there is no two sides to that, if that makes sense. So, I think that, like, I think that that's where the line is. The line is drawn at objective reality that we can produce evidence for. Or that we can produce the most evidence for, if that makes sense. I would put more stock into the don't fly around in private jet argument if there is a viable green alternative for small-scale, long-distance transport. It's called Zoom. We had 270 fires burning in our province this summer. Many are still burning. This has never happened before. Objective truth, tangible evidence, and empirically substantiated. Watching people object to that is like watching them drop their pants and twiddle. Yeah, like essentially, it's not based in reality. If you don't think that this is normal, if you don't think that like the weather, the inclement like weather events are normal, then you're just not living in reality. If you openly choose to not If you openly choose to reject decades of scientific research, if you choose to just not engage with that, that's on you. There's nothing I can do there. There's nothing I can do. I just can't wrap my head around these lawmakers flying all over instead of Zoom calls, especially when they push climate awareness. That's a fair point. I mean, I would argue that it'd be nice if we had more lawmakers push climate awareness. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. More lawmakers should be pushing climate awareness. More lawmakers should be going after corporations. More lawmakers should be pushing this idea that we should be decoupling ourselves from fossil fuels. I mean, like, these things are, what should be happening, but they're not. Since they gained the House majority, Republicans have launched a series of investigations in the Biden administration with an eye towards impeaching the president or cabinet officials. They have now zeroed in on the president's son with his overseas business dealings. The inquiries have not produced any evidence that Biden took official action on behalf of his son or business partners, but McCarthy called impeachment a natural step forward for the investigations. Yeah, like, again, no evidence. This is a dog and pony show. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. What I'm saying is that the moderates have an externality. It's not just about the actual policy discussed, but rather what they symbolize more broadly in their camps. Having more moderates who have more influence means that there's less chance of extremity being given a platform. It used to be unpopular to question presidential elections, for example, or dismiss science and research, and now it's not. Right, because we have to listen to the other side. Is my issue. In my state, we have tons of wooded areas and tons of wildfire every year, but it's because of the majority of people wanting to protect our areas and not knowing that we need to tend them to avoid fires. I mean, yeah, but also, like, the conditions. What about Jared Kushner? Nah, we don't want to talk about that. It's not just that. Yeah, obviously we need to be better stewards, but it's also, the unnatural or unusual drought conditions, unusual heat. All of these things are exacerbating the issues. Beavers prevent forest fires by creating natural swamp fire breaks, but we keep destroying their good work. True, that's another factor, which is also caused by us. All right, I think that this is a pertinent video. By the way, stand back and stand by for 22 years. Another Proud Boy will be dropping soap. Yeah, I don't know if that's the comment that I would use, but yeah, I don't know if that's the comment that I would use, but yes, the Proud Boy did get 22 years. I would say that they deserve 33. They should have gotten the whole book thrown at them, in my opinion. You can't just let the words overgrow. No, but that's not the only issue that's, that's not the only issue at play here.
I don't believe.
Yeah, I'm just not like into those type of jokes. Like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. Like, let's not do that, folks. It's not about mercy or not. It's just like those type of jokes, not here. Or those type of insinuations, not here.
I don't believe people who say that they don't.
Right, there's no context that make rape jokes okay. Yep. Not here. Not here.
Think that people are causing climate change. As I have said before, and I think it's important to keep this in mind, there are 3 ways of denying climate change.
It's prison? Yeah, they're serving 22 years for being domestic terrorists. But that's still like, nah, we just don't do that here. No. Nope. Not the place.
I don't believe people who say that they don't think that people are causing climate change. As I have said before, and I think it's important to keep this in mind, there are three ways of denying climate change. And there's sort of a sliding scale, and people will sort of slide around on it depending. Some folks, I've seen them slide up and down this scale, just them. And so this is part of why I don't believe that they don't believe. Is they go from, I don't think that the earth is getting warmer, to I don't think that people are doing it, to I don't think that it's that big of a deal, to I don't think that it's worth the costs. All up and down the scale, they'll go, like, depending on the room they're in, they'll change where they are on this scale of climate denial. But over here is impossible. I don't believe that anyone who's paying attention doesn't think the earth is getting warmer. And that's going to get harder and harder to deny every year. Before I get all the way into that, this is my problem. I just don't think that and I'm not saying that I'm right about this. I'm saying this is what my subconscious is telling me. My subconscious is telling me climate denial isn't that important because it is already very hard to believe the things that are clearly wrong. And it's just going to get harder every year. So it's already very hard to believe that it's not caused by that like it's not getting warmer. That seems impossible.
The only issue that I see is that like I see where he's going with this argument, and like I kind of wanted to play the beginning of this clip because it kind of like makes my original argument about how to deal with reality, we cannot cede ground to something that's just not real. We can't cede reality to these people. There is no both sides in this. And he kind of makes the point of like, even people who think or who are climate change deniers don't actually, in reality, think that climate change isn't happening.
It's possible to believe that if you're paying attention. Second, it's very hard to think that it's being caused by like the earth getting closer to the sun or something.
My problem with this argument is that like, and where I was going with this thought process, my problem with this argument is that like, how long is it going to take every time, every year, we're up against the clock. We're up against the clock here. That's the issue. We're up against the clock.
Which is not happening. Like, there are people who believe the earth is flat. And sometimes I think that when we're having these conversations and you're like, everybody on the debate, raise your hands if you think that people cause global warming. Like, we should then say, all right, but raise your hands if you think that the earth is round. Because I think we might catch some people who are like, well, I'm not convinced. I think it's out there. I think that like part of the appeal, and I understand why this is part of the appeal, but part of the appeal is just being contrary to this sort of like, being a rogue, being.
I never understood that. Like, being a contrarian for the sake of being a contrarian, even if you're wrong, like, dude, you're just wrong. If you're just being a contrarian to be for the sake of being a contrarian, like, you're just wrong, dude. Like, if you're wrong and you have no evidence to back up your claim against whatever the status quo is, and you're just like saying the opposite because you want to be a contrarian, like, damn. you just want to be wrong to be wrong, I guess. Whatever.
Contrarian. Because look, sometimes that's legitimately true. Like, there are times when the rogues win out. This isn't going to be one of them. I think sometimes about like the reality of the GameStop thing. Do you remember GameStop and the stock thing that happened? Where there were a bunch of hedge fund guys and they were like, GameStop is going to be worth less in a year than it is now because it's a mall store selling games, which are mostly downloaded now. And they were like, well, let's short it. Let's buy stocks in a way that we will make money if that stock is worth less in the future, which I don't. That's not my area of expertise. And then they did it, and then people realized that they did it, and they were like, but if when their short sells come due, we inflate the price, we normal people get to take money away from the hedge funds. And that's amazing. And they'll lose billions of dollars and we could make millions. And like, that's people pushing back against the dogma. It's pushing back against the pretty objective, usually reality, that like the retail investors never win and the hedge funds always do. But in this case, that wasn't. They figured it out. They and the rogue story is the good story. And I just didn't want to be a part of the rogue story. And I write for the internet.
I do think that there are people who choose the contrary position because they confuse being contrarian with being intelligent. True! However, I don't know if I'd say that people who play down human contribution to climate change are purely contrarian. I think they're probably just saying the thing they think they're supposed to say as part of their side. I think that's also, I mean, that might be the case in some cases. That might be the case. There are people that are legitimately contrarian just for the sake of being contrarian. There are people like that. But there are also people who are just being contrarian despite the overwhelming evidence, for the sake of, it's quote, their sides, you know, they have to support their side. That's also true. Again, thank you, Anna, for being nice and just honestly being so much love. I'll catch you on the flip side when I have extra time to hang. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate that. I think everyone to varying degrees does moderate and alter their views and expressions to conform to the people they like, the people they respect. In my opinion, I think a part of this comes down to anxiety. I think they're scared of being cast out from the people they like, and I think it's those people you can win over by trying to alleviate those worries. I mean, that might be the case in certain circumstances, yes. Back in 1970, California taught trade skills to their prisoners and had recidivism rates below 1%. Now it's just a huge tax sink for taxpayers, where they get out and they aren't allowed school or job and forced into joining gangs until they end up in prison again. Yeah, I believe somebody previously said that they should be theoretically in a humane system and in a normal scenario. They would be rehabilitation. They should be attempting to get people back on their feet, right? Because like most crime, not all, but most crime can be attributed to some socioeconomic circumstance, right? And if you alleviate that by giving people trade skills or jobs or school education, healthcare, things like that, that kind of comes in that comes into play. Prisons are largely for hiding the problems with society. True, that's a good point. They should get a safe stay or fair shake when they get out. Yes, and they should also have, rehabilitation. They should have efforts to rehabilitate, like trade skills and education and healthcare and things like that. Prisons are full of people who are literally trying to survive too. Yep. That's also what happens when that's what happens when prisons get privatized. Yep.
I know how like capturing attention works. You need things that are counterintuitive, and you need people to feel like they know stuff that other people don't know. All that's great content marketing. To some extent, I think that there are people who know that global warming exists and is caused by people, but they don't say it because they want to look like a rogue, and they want to and there's a party thing here where there's like the party that believes in the party that doesn't, and once it's an issue, it's gonna become something that people it's just gonna.
Yeah, but like it shouldn't be like there's only one side to this, which is like my entire like point. There's only one side to this, okay? There's only one side, sorry.
Be on party lines, which is infuriating, but it's the reality. And like I can't fix it. But like I think that the informed people, I feel that the informed people actually know, and they don't actually think that global warming doesn't exist. It's just so hard to believe. It's like, now I think denialism is real, and I think a lot of people really do believe it, but like my subconscious won't allow me to believe that it's that big of a problem because it seems impossible. It's a problem I have. And you can hear me like rationalizing as I talk about it, where I'm like, but no, it's not a problem. It's real. Like they really aren't. But then there is this thing, and I think it's really important to recognize, where you move from saying, okay, it is caused by people, but it's just not that big of a problem. Like it's warmer. Warmer happens, but like it is a big problem. And it's potentially a much bigger, like we don't know how big of a problem it is. And we're only ever going to find out by heading forth into the glorious future. And it could be a very, very big problem, like setting the quality of life of people back a lot, creating exacerbating and already existing extinction scenarios and loss of biodiversity scenarios.
Yeah, which cascades into other stuff. Like, that's really bad. That's really, really bad. The people most responsible know very well that climate change is real and have known for decades. That's true. That's true. There's only one side and there's only one planet Earth. We don't have another option if we mess it up. Yep. That's why all these billionaires want to go to space. Yeah, but all their billions and all their money it's not enough. It's just not enough. Like, there isn't the technology and wealth enough for these people to think that they're gonna live in some kind of like pod or something and go to Mars. Okay, that's just not, like, they don't have that time. They don't have that time to make that a thing. They can think that, but they don't have the time. One of the things that I think cause these tensions between climate change and governments is that it really does provide the ultimate stress test of what happens when a hard science meets a soft science. For centuries, it was fine to contest and debate policy because there's no absolute answer in social sciences. But what happens when a hard science like climatology bangs into a soft science of democratic theory? Dysfunction, apparently. Maybe, yeah. But like even then, there are like hard numbers that you can attribute to policy, right? Like you can attribute a policy being better or not because of the metrics of whatever it was trying to solve, right? Like we can compare the policy of like privatization of healthcare versus the more universal type healthcare system. We can compare these policy, and there is one objectively better than the other. There's one that's just better. But I don't know. I think that the dysfunction, but you have to ask yourself why that dysfunction is. Are there other characters here at play, like lobby and special interest groups, capital? We've not designed a democratic institution to cope with hard science. It was never designed for absolute answers, which can be perfectly summarized into what do we do when science tells us the public is wrong. Which can be perfectly summarized into what do we do when science tells us the public is wrong. But like, what do you mean by that? The real secret is humanity's always been on countdown. Life on Earth is dynamic. We know this. Asking dinosaur kind of stoic cynicism doesn't help, but humanity is doomed one way or another. One day our sun dies too. That's a long view, but it informs us how truth everything is temporal. But that's something that we really can't control. That's something that we can't, like, the day the sun dies, which may be billions of years from now. That's not something that we can control. As like stopping the greenhouse gases, the emissions of greenhouse gases is something that we can do. I don't understand what the point of making that comment was. Like, so we shouldn't do anything about it? I don't understand. The public can be right or wrong either way. It doesn't affect policy. Right. Well, 100% of the general public said climate change isn't real, but climatologists told us it is indeed real. What do we do? Do we create policy based on the scientists, or would that be undemocratic? What should governments do? Government, depending on the, government's job is to do what's best for the people, right? Government's job is to do what's best for the people. And people can deny that cigarettes don't cause cancer, but they do. And so therefore we should take policy actions to do the most amount of good for the most amount of people. I mean, this is my take. I don't think we should just throw our hands and go, well, it's about free will or determinism. This informs those who oppose active action negate, and they realize destiny is that as it is. This literally means nothing to me, so we shouldn't do anything about it. Gotcha. Like, this is jibber jabber. But then if 100% of the public doesn't believe in climate science and the government implements policy anyway, they'd likely vote them out. Maybe. Or maybe they will retain their seats because they see the results of the policy that was implemented. I mean, that's not always the case. There's not a single issue that we agree on 100%. That's true. That's true. We're creating a hypothetical on like something that's just like not a thing. I think the correct response, regardless, is to do the right thing based on the information that we have, especially when it comes to health or like climate or things like that.
Losing the coral reefs, losing beaches, losing things that we love, and like just disease spreading around, like what? Very bad. It's very bad. And then, so it's definitely bad. And I think that like that will be a harder and harder thing to deny in the future. I feel like when you look at history, there are always people who sit back there and are wrong and just stay wrong the whole time. But like, we as a species move forward. Like, eventually they get left behind, but really only when they die. And I'm sick, and I have been sick since the 90s of having this argument. I'm like, I don't care anymore. Like, you can believe the wrong thing that you think. I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to move forward, and the more we move forward, the more people will be convinced, especially of the last thing. So, like...
Yeah, I mean, so, like I said, I think it's a waste of time to engage these, arguments, because it's literally like trying to argue with a flat earther. Right? Like, it's literally trying to argue with a flat earther. It's very hard, obviously. It highlights a very difficult part of the democratic process. It means that we sometimes have to give up coherent ideas to balance public satisfaction, which if you're on one side, sounds like madness. If you're on the other side and you think it's perfectly appropriate, Jason Brennan's book Against Democracy is probably quite appropriate here. Every person under 20 should have the right to an earth that's able to sustain them like all the generations before them. True. Vote for people who don't want to drive climate change because they don't believe in it, for starters. True. It appears you have yet to wrestle with your own mortality. You don't know that. Once you have looked at your own decline, you realize that life is a smash and grab. You are condemned to die from the moment you took your first breath. I think everybody kind of understands that. Believe it or not, that notion, even if not literally cognizant of it, is latent in the consciousness and manifests at some point in everyone's life. But if they ever time, yeah, like I think that has nothing to do with the idea that we should be doing something about the climate crisis, right? Because then, if you think that it's inevitable anyways, then we shouldn't do anything about it, right? Because that's the only logical conclusion that I'm deriving from all the philosophical jibber jabber that I've been gathering. It's just like, so we shouldn't do anything about it. I go back to the same question. Fools who argue against climate change are in the grips of that. You mean they're the ones who are incapable of? I don't understand. Maybe if you explain it better, you're getting it. That is precisely why those morons default to their position. Okay, I think I get it. I think I get it. You're going through their thought process.
Like the first three things are like they get taken care of by climate change getting progressively worse. Like it becomes more obvious that it's happening, more obvious that it's caused by people, more obvious that it's a big deal.
Right, but by that time, the problem with this line of thinking is that while he's probably correct, that eventually at some point we're going to reach the point where you just cannot deny it. Like you just literally cannot deny that this is happening and deny that we're the ones causing it. But by then, you know, when will that line be crossed? By then, when will that that line has crossed? But how long is it going to take to get there? And if so, isn't that too late? Like the whole point is that we're racing against the clock here. The point is passed a long time ago. I mean, like for any person who has any ounce of like common sense and critical thinking, we would have realized this decades ago. But that's not the case. And like what he's saying is that eventually it's going to get so bad, it's going to get so bad that you just can't deny it. But by then, the problem there is that it's too freaking late. That's the issue that I'm having with this line of thinking.
The last thing actually gets fixed by taking on the problem, because there is, and people don't like to talk about it, but like at this point I'm old and tired of pretending like there's no costs. I'm tired of pretending like anything that could be possibly used as a talking point against my position doesn't exist. I don't feel that way. Like I'm not here for punditry. I'm not a pundit. I'm just trying to tell you what I think is true. There are costs. There are costs to the transition. Like we built trillions of dollars of fossil fuel infrastructure to provide people things that they love and they don't want to give up.
Yeah, that's true. But there are costs that are going to come with the climate, you know, with transitioning to clean or green energy or renewable energy. But no one's denying that. We're just saying that it's going to cost more, ignoring the problem. The good news is that humanity removes from the planet, have faith Earth will adapt, recalibrate, and move on until it no longer can. I hope the cockroaches have a good run. I mean, yeah, but like, I don't know, man. I'd rather do something about it. It's touching on something that's been on my mind and many other people's minds for a long time. The inevitability of eco-authoritarianism. We either supersede publics now and implement global reforms, or we wait long enough that we have no choice but to implement even more drastic reforms. Either way, I think people are going to have to get a bit familiar with the idea of giving up some policy oversight in exchange for planetary stability. There's no reason to square a circle. We're running out of time and can't infinitely debate what we should and we should or we shouldn't we. Right, which is my point. Like, it doesn't matter. We should be doing the right thing now. Enrique Tarrio has been sentenced to 22 years for a seditious conspiracy. Yeah, it should have been 33. They should have thrown the book at him.
And if you increase the costs of gasoline and of oil and of electricity, you can say, well, that'll help people buy electric cars that can afford them. It's a regressive tax. Like, you have to admit that if you just, without any other measures, and there's ways to mitigate this, but without any other measures, a gasoline tax is a regressive tax. It's a tax on people who can upgrade their cars less frequently. And if you increase the cost of electricity, like, everybody shares that cost, but the people who are most likely to be unable to pay that cost are the ones who will suffer the most. You know, the ones who won't be able to turn on their air conditioning, the ones who, you know,
or have subsidies like the same subsidies that the fossil fuel industry enjoys. I agree we should do it now because the version of authoritarianism that we can accept now is very modest and controllable, but the panic, the planet is on fire type stuff that could emerge in 80 years is far more scary. Yep. And again, 80 years is not really that far. It's not that far.
Might have to change, like, upturn their lives so that they can afford to live. So, like, you need ways, like, we know this. We know that there are costs. And there are also costs for just whiny upper class people who decide who to vote for. And we live in a democracy, and people need to get...
That's a stretch, but there's also a cost with not doing anything. And the cost of not doing anything, in my opinion, is far greater. If we take the stock of the men... I can't find optimism, I share hope and desire, but where do we find faith that people in positions of power and influence will act responsibly? They won't if we can get to another 10 generations. Fusion and superconductors are reality. Maybe there's a chance. Yeah, but by then, 10 generations? That's too late if we haven't already stopped emitting fossil fuels. Like, that's too late.
Votes, like, that's their job, is to represent people. Their job is to lead us toward a better future, and their job is to get elected. Like, it is. It just is. I don't know. I want it to be that way. I want politicians' jobs to be get elected, because otherwise it's not a democracy. So, and I'm in favor of democracy still. And if you're not in favor of democracy anymore, that does worry me. There are costs. But the more we interface with the problem and the more we create solutions, the more that's not the case. So you can say, and you'd be wrong, but you can say that the costs of getting off of fossil fuels are too high for the benefit of having less global warming. There's a point, like it's legitimately true that if you just like turned off the fossil fuel tap today, if you said, all right, no more fossil fuels, that would actually, for humanity, probably not for everybody else, but maybe, I don't know, we could probably have some wars about it, but it'd be worse for humanity than, I don't know, in the long term, I don't know, but certainly right now, it would be very bad. It would result in a lot of starvation. It would result in, a lot of violence. And so, like, that's why that's not happening. Like, nobody thinks, people think it should happen, but, like, if you held a vote, it wouldn't win. Well,
the issue is that we're going to come to a point where that's going to be the only option. So the correct play was to acknowledge this decades ago and start moving in that direction a long time ago. Instead of now, we're at basically the crossroads. We're at the end of the crossroads here, and the actions are going to be more drastic. The costs are going to be more drastic. So the only rational response would be, well, then in that case, we need to get started. If that's true, we need to get started.
So, but by taking it on, the costs get lower. And so that last point becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. Every dollar a solar panel gets cheaper. It becomes weaker every dollar a battery gets cheaper. It gets weaker every dollar a wind turbine gets cheaper. And then there's like more advanced stuff like geothermal or, modular nuclear, all this stuff. Like, we have to be focused on it and going after it. And like that, to me, I don't see the punditry working. I don't see the arguments working. Now, there are ways for arguments to work, but they're not the ways that we're having them. Like, I think that most of the data show that in order to convince people of something that is contrary to their worldview or to their political party, you need to have like really long, thoughtful, careful, drawn-out conversations, especially with people who they trust and love. And like, that's not happening on the internet. That's not the work that we're doing online. And like the sort of battling about trying to convince the deniers doesn't inspire me. And I like, to some extent, because I have such a hard time believing that they're being honest.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like, you're not going on the internet to try to convince like climate change denialists, right? Like, that's just not a thing that's going to happen. Because A, it's true, they're probably not being honest, and B, like, you can't have conversations with people and not have them coming from a base of reality, right? Like, it's just not a thing that can be had. The argument is that sociopaths are preventing change and they should be overcome by whatever means. Yeah, very few sociopaths.
The only thing that I feel like they might be being honest about is that last point, where they're like, look, maybe it's not so bad. Or it's not worth the costs. And in that vein, like, it's kind of true that a lot of scientists believe this, because like they'll tell you that it's very bad, but then some scientists are like, okay, well then let's put sulfur dioxide in the stratosphere to decrease the temperature of the planet. And those scientists are like, whoa, okay, I said it was bad, but it's not like bad enough to start experimenting with the only planet we have to have. And
well, no, it's not just. I mean, it's not just that. It's just that, like, the solutions, like geoengineering, is on like the bottom of the list of like things that we have at our disposal, that don't need to be deployed without first moving from the source of the problem, which is fossil fuels and whatnot. The first step is to get off of fossil fuels and to stop emissions. That's it. That's the first step. And a lot of scientists overwhelmingly agree. People with authoritarian personality do not live in reality. They project and co-opt victimhood, and they cannot be included in any decision at this level. I mean, if it was up to me, I don't think that, like, I think that decisions with regards to, like, climate, the climate crisis should be done at the guidance of, like, actual climate scientists. Like, what is the consensus of climate scientists telling us to do? And then do that.
We'll ever have. So, like, if it was that bad, then that we'd do that. But it's not that bad yet. Yeah. I just don't think... I'm done. And I've been done for a long time. Like, this has been, like, how I sort of philosophically engage with it. It's like, I'm not here to convince. Like, I'm done. Like, it's so clear. The reality is so clear. You have to be really motivated to not believe that that climate change is caused by people and it's a huge deal, and that it's dramatically worth much more than we are currently spending to mitigate it. So, I don't believe it. And I think that the only way, and like, historically, these positions don't get convinced away. They just go away eventually. It just like happens.
Well, the problem is, again, how much time is that going to take versus how much time do we have?
And maybe I don't think it's because convincing happened. And I've seen it in people who once denied climate change and don't anymore. And I talk to them about it, and they don't think that they disagreed before. Like, they don't even think they changed their mind. And the data prove this out as well. Like, this is common. They think, and I'm like, I remember debating them. And they're like, well, no, I mean, I remember having that conversation, but I didn't think the climate change didn't exist. And I'm like, you said it! I just don't think that people get convinced. I think that, like, we change, like, our old selves die and we don't even notice it happened.
I don't know, my dude. You just got gaslit, that's all.
But it's a problem in what I talk about sometimes, though, because I'll say, like, well, it's not like people deny climate change. And they're like, yes, they do, Hank. But I'm always like, rhetorically, I'd rather just pretend because then people will be like, oh, we don't? I guess we don't. I've been told by the radio that we don't. Or by the YouTube, by TikTok. And because it is a fringe belief. It's just not held by a tiny percentage of people. It's just a fringe belief held by a surprisingly large percentage of people.
Yeah, and these people also vote in people that are bought and paid for by the fossil fuel industry, and so on and so forth. They're disabled, they cannot understand or even see reality. It's blocked by their personality disorder, they should be ignored. Well, unfortunately, some of those people are in power.
And that's how I think. And I don't know if it's a problem or not. I'd be curious to hear people's thoughts on it. But I'm done having the argument. I'm just like, if you haven't been convinced so far, then I will let the future convince you. Because the future is going to convince you, or your kids. Like, maybe it won't get you because you won't be around long enough. But, like, it takes a long time for people to get convinced away from opinions that they hold and have been challenged on. And sometimes it takes longer than their lifespan. And that, you know, that happens all the time. Okay. I don't believe...
I don't share his optimism on the time frame here. Basically. That's the only thing. But, like, I completely understand, like, especially the intro. So, that all said, scientists say study found a direct link between greenhouse gas emissions and polar bear survival. 15 years after polar bears were listed as threatened, a new study says researchers have overcome a roadblock in the Endangered Species Act that prevented the federal government from considering climate change when evaluating the impacts of projects such as oil and drilling. The act requires agencies to ensure projects they approve don't further harm listed species. But a 2008 Department of Interior legal opinion said greenhouse gas emissions didn't have to be considered because the impact from the specific projects didn't distinguish from that of all historic global emissions. A study published Thursday in Science Policy Forum says scientists for the first time are able to directly quantify the impact of human-caused greenhouse gas emissions from specific sources on polar bear cub survival. It just seems odd that polar bears were listed because of the loss of sea ice due to global warming, but emissions have not been considered, said the lead author Stephen Armstrong, chief scientist emeritus at Polar Bears International and a professor at the University of Wyoming. Polar bears, which occurred in 19 subpopulations throughout the Arctic, rely on sea ice to hunt for seals. As the ice melts, they either end up on land or must swim farther from shore to find ice, which hurts their ability to find food and lead to long periods of fasting and deplete fat reserves. Human-caused global warming means there are fewer days of ice to help build up those reserves and longer fasting periods. And scientists have said most polar bears could become extinct by the end of the century unless warming is curbed. A 2020 study... The system destabilizes quickly. I don't know where people get these timelines, right? My concern is, like, it's not it's not gonna the change is not gonna happen quick enough. In 2020, the study found the number of fasting days determined by the number of ice-free days every summer directly affected cub survival. The new study authors said took a step further and quantified the number of ice-free fasting days caused by a specific amount of human-caused greenhouse gas emissions, distinct from what's already in the atmosphere. What's really relevant for policy is emission, rather than atmospheric concentrations, and co-author Cecilia Bitz, a climatologist and director of climate change program at the University of Washington. Researchers have estimated that the relationship between how long bears fasted and each gigaton of cumulative emission, which they said have allowed them to calculate the impact of emission from specific projects on future polar bear cub survival. It's basically connecting the dots from emission to ice-free days to impacts on polar bears, said Armstrong, who believes the method can be applied to many other species such as turtles and coral reefs. He also believes the study makes a case for rescinding the 2008 opinion barring climate considerations because of the Endangered Species Act requires federal agencies to use the best available scientific data. Interior officials cannot be reached for immediate comment. Todd Atwood, a wildlife biologist who leads the USGS Polar Bear Research Program, was not involved in the study, said it was an important initial step to quantifying the relationship between greenhouse gas emission and polar bear survival, and is successful in the sense that it provides a framework for beginning to do that. But the lack of estimates of population trends and survival rates for some polar bear subpopulations, which are distributed over very large geographical areas, with differences in sea ice and food sources, can be problematic when you're trying to match for recent greenhouse gas emission trajectories with population survival rates. It is a critique of them, but there's a lot of subpopulations that are really hard to get to, he said, admitting that there's not enough funding to do that. Another expert believes that the study shows a correlation between emissions and polar bear cub survival, but not a direct cause and effect. I think it takes us a little bit closer to understanding some of those relationships, but I just don't know that this paper pushes it over a new threshold, said Andrew DeRocher, a polar bear expert in biological sciences, professor at the University of Alberta, who believes polar bears are at risk of extinction of long term. I just don't think that this is a smoking gun that is going to change opinion. No, but I mean, I think it's important to understand that, like, if we can find like the relationship between like greenhouse gas emissions and polar bear populations, I don't think it's a stretch to say that, you know, we're the ones doing this. And what else are we doing? You know, I think it takes a little bit closer to understand, but I don't think this. Okay, yeah. Dan Rolfe, a professor at the Lewis and Clark School in Portland, Oregon, and an expert on Endangered Species Act, said a study makes important advances in understanding the effect of cumulative emissions on polar bears. I completely agree with the authors that it is essentially ludicrous that we list polar bears as threatened because of climate change, and then we turn around and say we can't consider the impacts of these federal actions that will increase greenhouse gas emissions. It makes no sense whatsoever. The federal agencies will only consider emissions from one project at a time, which means it could have relative small impacts and won't account for cumulative emissions of federal action. Agencies such as the Fish and Wildlife have the authority to determine that polar bears are already in jeopardy and the greenhouse gas emissions should be reduced. Rolfe said project evaluations then should consider whether emissions are consistent with the goal of reducing greenhouse gases, but it wouldn't fly politically. The whole theory now is that you keep allowing incremental adverse effects until the last one sort of is the straw that breaks the camel's back, and then you have to stop. Well, if the camel's back is already broken, we have to stop now, and I think that's the situation we're in for polar bears. Yep. All right, folks. We're going to speed run through some of these. Tennessee Democrat reprimanded for gun violence is protest is running for Senate. Pay attention, folks, if you live in Tennessee. Representative Gloria Johnson, one of the 3 Democrats reprimanded this year for leading a protest against gun violence on the state House floor, has launched a bid for Senate in the deep red home state. Johnson made the announcement outside of Knoxville School, where one student fatally shot another when she was a teacher in 2008, and to argue that nothing has been done since. We've got to do better, and we can do better, and Tennesseans deserve better. We've got to do something, and well, this is something I decided to do. So pay attention. She went on to criticized Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn, whom Johnson hopes to face if she wins the Democratic primary next year, accusing her of standing in the way of progress. We make sure that every family has access to affordable health care. Every kid has a great school in every district. It shouldn't matter where you live. Everyone should have a great school. We need to raise wages so people can earn a living wage. And we need to increase our union involvement because that's what built the middle class. Oh, boy. So pay attention, folks. Next year, this person is running for Senate, and she is going to run in the primary. Pay attention, folks. Next year, Representative Gloria Johnson, okay? Of course, we'll be talking more about this probably next year. The jury selection begins in contempt case against Peter Navarro. So we'll see what happens here. The jury selection began on Tuesday in a case against former Trump official Peter Navarro, who's charged with contempt of Congress after he refused to cooperate with the January 6th investigation on the insurrection. We'll see what happens with this. Of course, we'll be keeping tabs on all these cases. A federal court struck the Alabama congressional map again for diluting the black vote. Alabama is once again appealing to the U.S. Supreme Court, a lower court ruling that found that the state map of congressional election districts likely violates the Voting Rights Act by weakening black voters' power. The extraordinary move comes after a panel of 3 federal judges struck down Alabama's latest congressional redistricting plan for not following their court order to comply with the landmark civil rights law. Can you imagine if you couldn't have the ability to appeal to the courts? Essentially, that was the argument that Republicans tried to make in the North Carolina case. That basically the state legislature had the sole say in how these maps are drawn, with no recourse whatsoever for contesting that. The judges are going to draw the maps now, I think. Gotcha. In a court filing, the state says it plans to formally ask the country's highest court to put a pause on the ruling. It's unclear whether the Supreme Court, which upheld the lower court's earlier order about 3 months ago, is opening to revisiting a case that has become a vehicle not only for testing the conservative justice appetite for undoing the court's past ruling on Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, but also helping to determine which party controls the next U.S. House of Representatives. Ali with the 11 biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. George Santos is making a plea deal. Alabama is also appealing the 3-judge panel's latest ruling on the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. In an order released on Tuesday, the 3 federal judges said are deeply troubled that the state enacted a map that the state readily admits does not provide the remedy we said the federal law requires. We're not aware of any other case in which a state legislator faced with a federal court order declaring that the electoral map unlawfully dilutes minority voters and requires a plan to provide an additional opportunity district responded with a plan that the state concedes does not provide that district, said U.S. Circuit Judge Stanley Marcus, the U.S. District Judge Anna Manasco, and the U.S. District Judge Terry Moore. The law requires the creation of an additional district that affords black Alabamians, like everyone else, a fair and reasonable opportunity to elect candidates of their choice. In 2023, the plan plainly fails to do so. For 2024, the judges have assigned court-appointed experts to draw 3 potential maps that include 2 districts where black voters have a realistic opportunity of electing their preferred candidate. Those redistricting proposals are due in court by September 25th. Yeah, I believe that's what you're talking about, Michael Hassler. All sides in this case will be able to challenge the proposal produced by the court's special master and cartographer. The judges have said a hearing on any objections is tentatively for October 3rd. So we'll take a look at this. They're going to try to appeal to the Supreme Court, but we don't know how that's going to end up going. We'll definitely keep an eye out because this battle has been going on for quite a while. I believe I've touched on this before. But yeah, I mean, what is it? What can we expect? Republicans being Republicans, right? All right, folks. We made it. Folks, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. It really does help us out. And if you want to go above and beyond and want to support the channel but cannot do so monetarily, head on over to the YouTube channel. It really does help us out. Hit the big red subscribe button. Thank you, Michael Hasser. We're at 244 subscribers, so that's pretty good. Again, follow, like, do all the awesome stuff. I really appreciate all your support. Thank you for the biddies. Thank you for the follows. Thank you for the subscriptions. You guys are what makes this channel grow. Thank you, Michael Hasser. Thank you, Heat, for keeping the chat chill. Thank you all for hanging out. I appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. As always, folks, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya. All right, folks, hang tight. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya.